Hello, my name is Mrs. Holman, and I am your child's sixth grade teacher for the 2020-2021 school year. I came across this quote the other day, and it stated, "The setting isn't the deciding factor in learning." Such a true statement. Learning happens in all different scenarios. It could be at the dining room table having a discussion with the family. It could happen in four walls in a classroom. It can even happen across computer screens. It really boils down to the learner themselves and the educator, whether it's the parent or the teacher. I'd like to introduce you to my family. This is my husband, Josh. We've been married for 14 years. My son, Jacob, who's 13. My daughter, Sydney, who is 11. And my lovely little French bulldog, Lulu Bijou. Lulu Bijou will be turning 3 on September 29th. And as you can tell, she will be a permanent fixture within our classroom. If you listen to my video that I sent out before school started, you know that she does have a very thick French accent. She will be my teaching partner and companion, and she'll be making appearances throughout the school year. When I got into teaching 22 years ago, makes me sound very old, I know, but 22 years ago, I got into teaching, and it was after being a counselor for 4 years. I was a counselor working with severely emotionally disturbed teenagers, ages 12 to 17. And when I left that job and entered into the teaching profession, I realized very quickly that the importance of instilling safety in my classroom and making my kids understand that it's a risk-free classroom, that they are allowed to make mistakes and have missteps, and that's okay because that's where learning takes place. And I always keep telling my kids it's not in the successes, it really is in those mistakes where you're going to grow. And so I always make it very, very important in my class that they could, make a misstep, raise their hand, say something that's not correct. And that's okay. We're all there to help build them up, pick them up, and help them grow from there. I also really want to teach my kids that it's important that they take ownership over their own learning and their achievement. That it isn't about the parents racing down to the school to drop off their paper that they've worked a month on, but they left it on the dining room table. And it's not about allowing them to call home and say, "Hey, Mom, bring my homework. I forgot it." I really want to please plead to you that there is a huge difference between helping your child and rescuing them. And we're really not doing our kids any justice if we keep rescuing them and bailing them out. We have to let them fall down and pick themselves up. And so there is a huge difference. I have no problem with you helping your child. I welcome it 100%. But I do want you to stop rescuing because what I see over the course of the school year, this is a huge, huge learning year for them. Because when they get into middle school, there will be no rescuing. And then they'll feel the pain of what it feels like then. And I really want them to be able to develop those skills this year where it's a safe environment where they can fall down, feel what it feels like to maybe get a 0 in something because they were maybe not the most responsible. But then they will learn from that and they won't do it again. So I really want to ask you all, know the difference between help and rescue in our classroom. I set very high expectations for my students, extremely high expectations. And what I also learned early on in my career is that they often will meet them and exceed them. And so my kids will be doing things that are very deep and meaningful. Lots of critical thinking, deductive reasoning, inferential thinking will be taking place. It's not going to be the right there in the text type questions all the time. And as a result, they grow and they become deep thinkers and hopefully lifelong learners. I want to welcome Ms. Chan to our classroom. Ms. Chan comes to us from UCI. She'll be our student teacher from September through December. And she'll be with us Tuesdays and Thursdays. And she has already joined our class and has done some wonderful things with our students. Come December, she'll be with us Monday through Friday, which will be a great gift. I have attached our generic schedule for the school year or for the distance learning school year. We'll see how long that lasts. As you can see, it is very generic. It just kind of gives a brief outline of what our school day looks like. But as you've noted, I have been including every single Sunday night. I send home a very detailed schedule for you to look over. I ask the students to go over it with their parents, and then I also attach it in Google Classroom. And it's very detailed with everything on it that they'll need for the week, with hyperlinks and so on. I'd like to address attendance. Attendance is a big one. Attendance is mandatory, even during distance learning. Distance learning does not give them a free pass to miss class, to come late, to leave midday just to go hang out and do whatever. Attendance is mandatory. It comes directly from the state. And so we ask that our students are there on time, no later than 8:15. I ask that they log in 5 minutes early in case they're having some sort of difficulties. I also take attendance after lunch. I have noticed that a few students in our classroom think that the school day is over at lunch, despite the fact that I have talked to them repeatedly that school does not end at lunchtime. There is a lot of learning that can take place after. We have independent learning. We have specialists after lunch. We have our read aloud after lunch and our deep discussions for our whole class novel. I answer questions and help troubleshoot while they're working independently. And so it's imperative that all students are in the school setting throughout the day from 8:15 until 2:30. At 2:30, I offer office hours for all students or parents or both for you to ask any questions that are burning or things that you need help with or that the students need help with. So I ask all of you, please make sure your child is logged in on time and that they're there throughout the entire school day. We have a lot of Zoom expectations. We call them ZORMs. It's a combination between Zoom and norms. And so I'd like to go over those really quickly. They've been addressed with your child at length. They know all of them and they have been adhering to all of them with the exception of a couple of things. So, of course, they know to mute their mic and all that good stuff, and I won't bore you with those little details. But one thing I'd like to talk about is sitting in a quiet place. Some students are sitting in a quiet place within their bedroom, which is fine. If that's the only quiet workspace that they have, where they have a desk with a chair, that's fine. But I do ask that they're not laying in bed in their pajamas, rolling around, because that is not a proper learning environment, nor is it appropriate to be dressed like that or acting like that in front of their peers. Also, we have numerous breaks throughout the day. Students do not need to be eating during our Zoom lessons. So it's very distracting, and I ask that they please eat during those breaks. They have a 15-minute break, a 20-minute break, a lunch break, which is 40 minutes long. And then after lunch, they have numerous times where they can run off and get some snacks if they're starving to death. So please have them eat during those times and not during Zoom times. Also, work completion is becoming an issue when we're only 2 weeks in. Some students are not completing their work and they're not completing their work on time. It makes it really difficult to have to go back and hunt and peck and search for students' work if it's turned in late. And so I ask that all students are watching and paying attention to the schedule, looking at each day carefully, referring to Google Classroom so that they can turn in their assignments on time and complete them on time independently. One thing I'd like to talk about at length is about reading. I am a huge proponent of reading. I advocate reading daily for a minimum, and I want to stress that number, a minimum of 30 minutes a day. There is this big number that we talk about in class all the time, and it's called 1 million. We are engaging in something called the Million Word Challenge. And the reason why we do the Million Word Challenge is because of this fact right here. If a child reads 1 million words per year, they will be in the top 2% of all children on the standardized reading tests. Now, granted, I don't focus on standardized tests as the all, end all be all, but it is very indicative of what is happening if your child is reading 1 million words a school year. If they're reading, they are at the very top of their peers as far as comprehension skills go. Now, look at the fact if a student reads as little as 8,000 words per year, that student will be in the bottom 2%. That's very telling. I think that if I were, sitting at home and thinking about these stats, which I do actually, I think about these stats because I have a reader in my home where my son is reading voraciously constantly, and then I have a student that's more of a reluctant reader, my daughter, who really doesn't enjoy reading. And it drives me crazy. It breaks my heart because here I am, a teacher, a sixth grade teacher, and I love reading. We've read to her since she was a baby, yet that's something that she just struggles with as far as the love of it. However, she doesn't get a free pass. She still has to read every single night for a minimum of 30 minutes. I will be honest, when that dinger goes off, man, she closes that book. But I will tell you, she's definitely not in the bottom 2% because we are very clear about our expectations at our home, excuse me. And so our children have to do that reading. They have to do it every single night, even on the weekends. It's very, very important. We have the million word challenge in our classroom. When a student finishes a book, they are asked to record it on a running record, a log that I provided them. It's in Google Classroom. Then they fill out a form. And as the school year goes on, that total of words accumulates. And then they have a cumulative total by the end of the school year. Last year, we had 3/4 of the class reach the million word mark or beyond. We had lots of kids get close. And it was really exciting to see that their reading levels jumped 3, 4 reading levels in just one school year. It was exciting to see. They were jumping for joy. They believed in it because they saw it happening in front of their eyes. It's really important that you carve that time out and insist that your child reads every single night. In our class, we will be reading 4 novels. We'll be reading A Long Walk to Water. We already started that one, actually. That is a phenomenal book. It's a realistic fiction book. It's based on a real-life event that happened, but then it parallels another story that is fictional, hence the realistic fiction genre title. We will be reading Peppermints in the Parlor, which is our mystery novel, Poppy, our fantasy novel, and Refugee, our historical fiction novel. We don't require that your child purchase the novels. You can if you'd like. It definitely makes life a lot easier for the student to follow along. Currently, I have been taking pictures of the pages in A Long Walk to Water and posting them on Google Classroom. And the other 3 books, I do have copies for every student in my classroom. So if they want to write in their book or want to have their own copy, feel free, but it's definitely not mandatory moving forward. In addition, we will be engaging in something called book club. Some classrooms last year had book club. We will be meeting every Friday, and we definitely need parent volunteers to help facilitate that. Our meeting time, like I said, is Friday, but it will be meeting from 8:40 to 9:20 in the morning. And we'll need parents to help facilitate those meetings, to keep students on task, to help with questioning and conversations that take place amongst their book club members. In addition, we will be having Socratic seminars on a regular basis. We don't start until about December or January, but that's definitely a higher level thinking discussion group that we'll be having whole class. And lastly, we also have small group instruction. We have 2 small groups running daily, if you can look on our schedule. We'll have one group meeting for RTI 5 days a week, and that group will be meeting every single day, the same group of kids. However, that group of kids can change. It can become fluid depending on need within the classroom. So if students in that group start making growth, then they can exit out of it. And in addition, if we see students that are struggling in skills like making inferences or identifying theme or things like that, they can enter into that group to get that small, very focused instruction. In addition, we will have enrichment small groups that will help with students that need to be pushed a little bit more. Maybe they're reading at an 11th grade reading level. And so maybe they need higher level texts to engage them. So small groups will be happening for all students in our classroom, not just students that may potentially be struggling in an area of reading comprehension. Writing is my passion. If you don't know that about me, yeah, now you do. It's one of my big loves in life. I went to UCI and became a writing specialist. I was a consultant for a professor there and would present every single summer. And I've been a fellow with UCI for about 12 years. Um, Writing is one of those things that I think a lot of people get scared to teach or to even engage in because they get insecure. It's very personal. And so I try to dispel the fear of writing in my class. And so we do lots of different writing assignments in our class. A lot of it is choice driven, if not most, if not all. And so you'll see here we have a mixture of poetry, we have descriptive paragraphs, we have argumentative essays, narratives, and so on. We'll be writing some nonfiction pieces within our magazine article. We'll be doing a multi-genre research paper, speech writing at the end of the year. So as you see, we'll be hitting all different genres of writing, but in a very interactive, fun, and engaging and exciting way. Our math curriculum this year is slightly different than years past. Our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade teachers will all be teaching using the adoption called illustrative math. It is completely aligned with the Common Core, and it is conceptual based. However, in 6th grade, they do get to learn algorithms and formulas and apply those and make sense of everything that was taught to them conceptually. There is a website that I have attached on Google Classroom called Mr. Morgan's Math Help. It has every single unit from our illustrative math program videotaped. So if a student is absent on a particular day, they can always go to Mr. Morgan's Math Help website and click on that, and they'll get the lesson virtually, all spelled out for them to do independently for the day that they missed. In addition, we'll be using Khan Academy. It's completely aligned with illustrative as well. So it follows exactly the way we teach how we teach our math. The questioning, the videos, everything within it will completely match with what we've taught through our math program. In addition, we'll be using Freckle as a support for our math program if they want extra assistance or extra math problems or practice within a concept. We are lucky to have 3 specialists on campus that will be working with your child virtually. They already started last week. We have Mr. Nguyen, our science specialist. We have Mr. S., our music specialist, and Mrs. O'Shea, our PE specialist. They have their own unique Google Classroom codes, so your child will have 3 other Google Classrooms to navigate. They have their Zoom IDs listed here. All students have this information and have already participated in a class virtually with these teachers. So it's really exciting to have them. The difference is that they'll be meeting with them synchronously. That means live over Zoom for roughly 20 minutes, 20 to 25 minutes. And then they'll have asynchronous work to do independently. So that's why the Google Classroom comes into play. So they'll have to do work independently for each one of these subject areas and complete them by the next class meeting. Our social studies this year is all about ancient civilizations. It's one of my favorite things to teach on the planet. We start with early humans, and then we move on to Mesopotamia, Egypt, Greece, Rome, Israel, and we dive in with, just so much fun and excitement. When we get into the classroom, we get to do lots of hands-on learning. Even though we are learning through the computer right now, we're still going to be doing some interactive studies within these civilizations, what makes it very exciting to see how they embalmed people back during, ancient Egypt and created mummies. So we'll try to make it as exciting as possible. We do have a gate cluster in our classroom. And what that means is that students will be learning to critically think and to delve deep beyond the literal. We will be thinking like a disciplinarian, using depth and complexity. and engaging in Socratic seminars, something I already discussed earlier. Socratic seminar is one of my favorite things to engage in our classroom because it's a dialogue, an intellectual dialogue that starts off with an open-ended question about a text that they're reading. It could be a text like a short story, or it could be a piece of poetry. It could be a quote, or it could even be a picture, actually, that they've analyzed and researched. And then the discussion happens naturally amongst their peers. And I merely sit there like Socrates, and I help facilitate the conversation by continuing to question, but never once will I ever give them my opinion or my answers. So then they get to arrive at their own opinions through evidence, citing evidence from the text, and listening to others' ideas, and bouncing off one another in a controlled environment. It's extremely fun to engage in. And when we have curriculum day in January, you too get to engage in a Socratic seminar with our kiddos. One thing that's not going to go away, and that will be our shout outs. We are going to do them virtually until we get back on campus. And it's really great because students really respond to these shout outs and to these positive recognitions. And so I'll be definitely giving out shout outs and letting the kids know that they received a shout out. In class, we have some other ways that they get recognized. I believe in a lot of positive reinforcement. I think that goes a long way, as opposed to calling out negative behavior all the time, which tends to backfire often. So you'll notice that students sometimes get to be my co-host, or they get to be DJ Pump It Up, or things like that. The kids can tell you more about that, but there's lots and lots of positive things that happen in our classroom to recognize all of the phenomenal things that are going on, either on Zoom or outside of the classroom. Unfortunately, sometimes kids do make a misstep. It's all part of growing up. And so minors and majors are still part of the behavior program. So if there's anything major that goes down that requires a minor or a major, those still will be handed out, even though we are on distance learning. We are offering a really phenomenal resource this year. It's called the Davis Magnet School Family Resource Center. And if you click on the Davis Ducks icon, it will take you to a website that is brand new. It will deal with all sorts of resources to help parents navigate these difficult times. So there's social emotional learning, academics, and a tech corner. So if you have any questions regarding things, technology, if you're having issues with your Chromebook or with internet, you can click on there and it will take you to different platforms to help you troubleshoot. If you need help with comprehension strategies, there's that piece right here in the academic portion. And then the big piece, in my opinion, is the social emotional piece. So if students are having a hard time understanding how to cope with their emotions during these unprecedented times, there are lots and lots of resources here that you can find if you click on this section to help you and your family get through some hard times. Highly recommend this resource center. Goal setting conferences will be coming up. They will be happening the week of September 28th. So keep your eyes open for that email. I'll be sending out signups shortly. Once I get that sign-up sheet solidified, I will fire it out to all the families. Also, I have this form. If you click on this form here, it will take you to a Google form I created for you to go ahead and ask any questions that you feel like you didn't get answered during this presentation. So I ask that you put your name, your child's name, and then write your question there, submit it. And if you could submit this form before Wednesday, September 9th, I would very much like to answer all questions when we meet on Wednesday evening from 7 to 7:45. I've also included the Zoom ID and password here for you to log on. And I won't be going through this presentation. This is just for you to look over and listen to right now. And then the night of our question and answer session, I will answer any burning questions that you still have lingering and help you in any way I can. Communication is a big one. If you have any questions or concerns, please email me. Just give me 24 hours to respond. And I will get right back to you as soon as I can within that 24-hour time frame. We also have Google Classroom, which is firing out communication to parents. Please feel free to look at the Google Classroom at any time with your child to see any upcoming assignments, late assignments, grades on certain assignments, and so on. I feel like if we're proactive, most fires can be put out pretty quickly. I'm in the process of finishing up our class website. I thought it looked great and everything, and then I saw Mrs. Matthews' website, and then I soon realized, wow, mine looks nothing like hers. So now I've got a bug that I've got to fix mine and make mine beautiful and more user-friendly. And so that should be up and running by the end of this week. All right. Well, I am looking forward to talking to everybody Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. It's a 45-minute session, and there is a time limit, so it will shut down at 7:45. So please log in on time, and I look forward to seeing every single one of you on Wednesday evening. Thank you, and have a good day.